Gina makes a good one. Gina makes a good one.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the Wethersfield Board of Education. Tonight is Tuesday, March 8th, 2022. We're in the Town Hall chambers. Ellen, can we have roll call, please?
Yes, Chairman Carey. Good evening, everyone. Mrs. DeRoberts?
Here.
Mrs. Drew?
Here.
Mr. Healy? Mrs. Granato? Present. Mr. Lacavoli?
Here.
Dr. Regan Lefebvre?
Here.
Mr. Riley?
Here.
Mr. Cassio?
Present.
Chairperson Mr. Carey?
Here.
And Wethersfield High School Student Representative Lena Usello. All present.
Thank you. If we could have Ms. Kim Bobbin lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if we can all stand.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Emmett, student staff recognition.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. Good evening, everyone. This evening we have two presentations. I'd like to first have our colleagues from the Wethersfield Early Childhood Collaborative come forward for presentation.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kim Bobbin, and I'm the Family and Early Childhood Coordinator for the Town of Wethersfield and Wethersfield Public Schools. And I'm here tonight with my colleague Jim Welch and one of our parent leaders to give you an update on the work of the Wethersfield Early Childhood Collaborative. So today at 11:30, my phone rang, and it was a young dad. And he sounded nervous and hurried. And he said, I'm new to Wethersfield, I have a 3-year-old, I want to put him in preschool, I have no idea what to do. And I called the Board of Ed and they said, you might be able to help me. So the first thing I did was ask him if he had a computer, and he said no. So he said, but I do have a cell phone. So I asked him to pull up the WEC website, which is www.wethersfieldchildhood.com, which is mobile friendly, and he opened it on his phone. And he said, what is this? And I said, this is a website that was created just for you. So if you go to the WEC website on your phone, there's a search bar. You can put in preschool, you can put in pools, anything you want to know about kids or families in Wethersfield, and it's accessible to you right on your phone. So what difference does that make? One dad and one 3-year-old. Well, I like to say that the difference is the difference between the dental cleaning and the root canal. So 80% of a child's brain is developed by the time they're 3. By the time they're 5, their brains are almost fully developed, and yet we don't see them in our public schools until then. So the work of the Wethersfield Early Childhood Collaborative is to ensure that Wethersfield kids are healthy, ready for school, and connected to community. It's a coalition of staff members, parents, elected officials, community representatives that get together once a month to talk about changing systems to make sure that Wethersfield kids are ready for kindergarten. One of the things that Wethersfield Early Childhood Collaborative does is track data. So we know that statewide in Connecticut, the birth rate is declining, but interestingly enough, as you all probably know, in Wethersfield, the birth rate has not declined. So in a few years, it's gone up. We do have more and more new families moving into town every year, and we do know that over the last 10 years, consistently, our preschool attendance has declined. And if you want to know what impact that has, just talk to a kindergarten teacher this year and see what that's like to try to run a classroom with little guys who haven't had no preschool. One of my favorite things about Wethersfield is our multilingual population. So according to the latest census data, 23% of our total population speaks a language in addition to English. So that dad today who was looking for preschool spoke English, and he's from this country. For some of our parents who are from other countries and language is a barrier, it can be difficult. It can be very difficult to navigate the process. And WEC has done an incredible job of connecting multilingual parents to the community and to Wethersfield Public Schools. If you go down into my office, you'll see a bookcase of binders. One of the things I do most often is grant writing. So over the last 5 years, with my colleagues, we've written over $500,000 in grants to support staff, the website, the baby bags that are given to every parent who comes into town hall to get a birth certificate, the resource guides, and more. So WEC operates almost fully on grant funding, and we're proud of the work that we've done there. And the grant funding helps our programs. So on the right-hand side, that's our Yukon PEP People Empowering People program, which is facilitated by my colleague and friend, Deane. We've graduated over 44 diverse parent leaders. And as people who on the Board of Ed, you know, it's sometimes the same people that we see doing a lot of the work in town. So to have a diverse group of 44 new parent leaders is really exciting. One of my favorite programs is our Summer Successful Transition to Kindergarten program. That program is for little guys who haven't had a preschool experience, and what makes it unique is that the kids come in and see the kindergarten classroom, but with their parents. So Mr. Carey got to come in last year and see the parents. It's really incredible. They spend about 8 hours learning everything there is to know about Wethersfield Public Schools, and that sets them up for success for the next 13 years. We also operate a 100% grant-funded ESL family learning program, and that program helps parents learn English and get ready for workforce and employability, and it also serves infants, toddlers, and preschoolers. For all of this work, WEC is recognized statewide and also nationally. So the joke tonight was I had to set my timer because I talk a lot. But Jim and I, and even though Jim is new, are constantly being invited to meetings and to conferences to present on the work that we've been doing in Wethersfield, specifically with our multilingual population, and even on the national level. And so what's new and what's next? So for over the last 5 years, I have been the voice of kids and families in Wethersfield. And the one thing I learned from my colleague and friend Janine Barazzi is that being a leader is not about being the voice for others. Being a leader is about empowering others to use their voice. So this is what's new and what's next is my colleague Jim Welch, who is a graduate of the Yukon PEP program and the new program coordinator for WEC.
Thank you, guys. Let me see. So I started as the WEC program coordinator in August. I'm also the father of a 7th grader at Silas Deane Middle, and my daughter Sadie will start at Charles Wright Kindergarten in the fall. Because of all the work that Kim has done, Wethersfield has a unique opportunity to be part of the Office of Early Childhood Parent Cabinet. Avani is our Parent Cabinet representative from Wethersfield. There are 14 cabinet members, and they've already met with the Lieutenant Governor, Bicewitz, and they're going to get a at ct.gov email, and they're part of the Lamont's Education Department. And then we have Jermaine and Maria here. They are our parent ambassadors from Wethersfield. And they report through Avani up to the state. And we are Region 6, which is 14 towns, but we are very lucky because of Kim and because we had WEC already in place. The program runs through the Connecticut Children's Collective, so towns that did not have a collaborative are not part of this program. So, our neighbors in Rocky Hill, Cromwell, Newington do not have ambassadors and cabinet members like we do. And as we meet, Kim and I are very proud to have such a diverse cabinet and ambassadors. I'm also very proud to be part of the new Wethersfield Family Engagement Team. And WEC is just the starting point. So Marcella Bingham is the Choice Family Coordinator. Jesse Pickett is the Elementary Schools Liaison. Jennifer Fell is the High School and Middle School Family Liaison. And then Kim is Cradle to Creole. Jesse and I are already working on the transition to kindergarten. Well, we plan to be at all 5 schools for the parent orientation in April, and we're also working on playground play dates with Highcrest, and we hope to expand it to all the schools so that if you have an incoming kindergartner, we'll invite you to the school playground. Just, post-COVID, just to connect the kids, to get to know each other, to get familiar with their school. In January, the Office of Early Childhood distributed N95 masks and test kits. So I went to New Britain and Windsor Locks and picked up over 400 masks and test kits for 9 in-home providers and the 5 child care centers. And it was an awesome opportunity to get to know our providers. And I'm particularly proud with Kim's help. I would call and occasionally I'd get a provider who said, Spanish. So I'd have to quickly text Kim hey, I need help here. But these providers really were isolated. So it's awesome that now through Little Wise and Diana Gill, we kind of have a network of Spanish-speaking providers in town. And it was just a great opportunity, even if it was just waving from the driveway, to get to know the home providers. And then I distributed, the WEC resource guide. At another meeting, maybe we'll talk about the Sparkler app through the Office of Early Childhood and the ages and stages development that we have. But I was able to give Sparkler literature to almost 20 providers here, right? And then, we have a couple thousand people who follow us on Facebook. Our email newsletter reaches almost 900 people. And for me, all this work is, so Maria's son, Justino, Maria was part of Kim's family learning program, and it is one of our great multi-language learners. Her son, Justino, will be starting kindergarten with my daughter, Sadie, in the fall. So the work of WEC really is to make sure that the preschool students are healthy, connected to community, and ready for school. And, if Sadie and Justinos both show up at Charles on day one on the same playing field, ready to learn, then WEC has been successful.
Thank you. Any board members with questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Lacavoli.
Thank you guys for showing this presentation, and thank you for all the work that you're doing with WEC. We know how important it is, and we know what an asset it is to this town. So thank you very much for that. I was wondering, on the chart that showed the participation rates, do you have any idea what is causing the decline, and what can the Board of Ed and or the school district or all stakeholders do to get that number to start going back up?
I got a great email last week from a parent that I'd be happy to forward. I have her permission to forward it, that said that Weathersfield parents are deciding between preschool and employment. So the cost of preschool can be anywhere from the web program, which is around $1,000, a couple hours a day, a couple days a week, to up to $15,000 for full care. So for a young parent making a decision for one child, to send one child to school for $15,000 really doesn't make a lot of sense. So a lot of Weathersfield parents are deciding to stay home and forego preschool because it's too expensive. So we spend a lot of time talking about what could we do. We look at other towns and other models. Right now, we're looking at West Hartford and their budget and the funding that they receive. They receive over $500,000 in funding per year to run preschool programs. But what we could really use is full-day, affordable preschool. And that doesn't have to be free. So if we could charge tuition on a sliding scale, but Weathersfield could really use full-day, affordable preschool so parents can go back to work and kids can get an education.
Thank you. Any other board members? Yes, Dr. Regan Lefebvre.
Thank you so much, Kim, and thank you, Jim, and your parent ambassadors. You do a fantastic job. And it's not just about the children you're serving, it's about the whole entire family and the whole community. Early childhood is a very difficult and vulnerable time for many parents, and I think the way you connect with them is so important. I myself received one of your baby bags when I registered my son's birth 2 years ago, and it was really nice and full of lots of useful information. Something I really admire and appreciate that you do in all of your messaging is that you're not focused on mothers, you're focused on parents and guardians, and I think that's so important. Because there's been far too much messaging around early childhood that's directed just at women, which just reinforces this idea that it's women's responsibility and sole responsibility to be raising children. And that's not how we're going to get to an equitable society. It's not how we're going to get to a society with full employment either. What kind of model do you think would work for affordable preschool? Because it is almost as expensive as UConn, and yet you can't get your preschoolers to take out their own loans. I've looked into this.
So I will give a quick shout out to the Weathersfield Mayor's Charity Ball. So one of the things that's very unique to Weathersfield, I'm not sure anyone else in Connecticut has this, we've donated, the Weathersfield Mayor's Charity Ball has collected from residents over $35,000. So we've distributed 35 individual preschool scholarships to Weathersfield kids and families. That's 100% resident funded. Again, if you take a look at the binders in my office and, kind of our networks, I think we need to do it with a bunch of different pieces. So my idea would be you get funding from everywhere. You get funding from Liberty Bank Foundation, Hartford Foundation, you ask the state for some money, you have the parents kick in some money for tuition, and if there's any money, from ESSER funds or ARPA funds. But I think that the ARPA funds were designed to be transformational. Right? So when we think about investment, I know that we want to invest in new boilers and new air ducts, in systems, but early childhood, the return on investment can be 17% or higher for every dollar that you spend. To me, the greatest investment in Weathersfield would even be if it was just 1 year, even if we could get 10 or 20 more kids into preschool, that's an investment that we would reap the benefits for years to come. So
I agree completely. Thank you.
Any other board members? Yes, Bobby.
I'm always the wish person on the WEC Collaborative, and down in Washington, D.C. on the infrastructure bill, they do have universal pre-K 3 and 4, and I'm wishing, I really am, because as a second grade teacher for 40 years, you knew who had pre-K, you knew who had experiences. It's that obvious, and that is the end of early childhood, is second grade. So now you're going off, hoping to have all your skills to learn. So I can't tell you how valuable pre-K 3 and pre-K 4 would be for a town, for its youngest citizens, and for our education system. So thanks, Kim, and we'll keep wishing.
And Jim.
Jim, thanks, Jim.
Yes, John.
Thank you for mentioning the Mayor's Charity Ball.
The best.
Appreciate that. This is going to be coming up the first week of June, so donations will be accepted for this. But more importantly, I think we also have to look at the time of that graft.
Sure.
It was, during COVID. So I think a lot of our families kept their children home, and the parents were home at the same time. So I think with the change of climate, you hopefully will start seeing some additional changes in the graft. I think by 2023, you'll see an upswing on that. But the cost is twofold. But more importantly, I know they have the state-funded daycare centers, programs, for children. But I'm wondering if there's possibly speaking with our state legislature regarding having preschool programs in each community. It's costly, I get it, but it might be something to look into,
Again, I think that's the what's next for WEC is, Maria and Jermaine and Ivani. And that's something I guess the board can think about is if we had an ask at the state level, what would that look like? Because people are tired of hearing me as the voice of Wethersfield kids and families, even on a state level. But I think if Maria got up and asked, or Jermaine got up and asked, or Ivani at a parent cabinet meeting asked for funding for Wethersfield, I think the result would be very different. So we're excited about, it's a great opportunity for Wethersfield.
Yeah, because I was a former director of the Naugatuck Daycare Center, for 5 years. So I'm familiar with the program and how it can come into your community. So, okay. It's
We're
all
ready.
based on need.
It's all based on need.
All based on need and economic environment. So I think
Yeah.
Wethersfield's climate has changed. So might be a good stepping stone.
Any other board members? Yes, Janice.
Also, thank you very much. The work you've done over the years and the way you've built up this program is remarkable. And I hear and I can see that you work so hard to cobble together all these different sources of funding. And to echo what Bobby and John were saying, if this were at the state or better yet, the national level, that would be so much more efficient and effective, and we really need all of those little guys in a preschool program. I taught kindergarten for 20 years, and as Bobby said, you can see the difference, and it's very important. So maybe if we all advocate for that, maybe someday soon, it'll happen.
That would be great. Our parent ambassadors are on it. They're going to be, we'll get them at the state capitol as soon as possible.
Anyone else? All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Jim. Thank you,
Thank you,
Kim.
parents. Yes, still does. And at this point in time, our next presentation, if Ms. Thakur, Ms. Jones, and Ms. Woods, please come to the podium for an update on the teacher residency program. This is our first year as a district participating in this program. It is on the agenda this evening to extend it into next year, so we thought it would be a perfect opportunity to hear how things are going.
Perfect timing. Good evening, everyone. I know I have not had the chance to meet all of you personally yet. My name is Neela Thakur, and I am the very proud principal of Emerson Williams Elementary School. And this evening, I am joined by two of my colleagues, Pam Jones and Emily Woods. And like Michael said, we are here to give you some very important information and updates regarding the Connecticut Teacher Residency Program. As you all already know, our entire school district is working very hard on three major district priorities this school year: empathy, achievement, and equity. We consider these three priorities to be incredibly important and very much interconnected and overlapping. We don't see them as three completely discrete, separate things. We find them all to be very much interconnected. So for the equity priority 3, it is written that we are going to deliberately identify inequities in our policies and practices that impact our community and change structures to ensure equitable outcomes for all by specific characteristics and specifically by race. And all of our schools have a school improvement plan, and our central office has a central office improvement plan. And one part of our central office improvement plan is to recruit, retain, and support teachers of color and from diverse backgrounds and experiences. So the Connecticut Teacher Residency Program is one of our action steps to try to meet that objective. In addition to the Connecticut Teacher Residency Program, we also have an action step in which administrators have been attending minority recruitment fairs, and I've had the opportunity to do that, and that has been very helpful. And also in Wethersfield, we have established an affinity group to support our staff members of color, and Pam Jones is a part of that affinity group as well. As Michael mentioned, this is the very first year that Wethersfield has participated in the Connecticut Teacher Residency Program. At this current time, Emerson Williams is the only school participating in the program. Next year, it is the hope that we could have more schools involved in the Connecticut Teacher Residency Program as well. This year at Emerson Williams, we have 2 teachers who are the mentors in the program, Pam Jones and Emily Woods, and they're here this evening to give you a little bit of information about the program and some updates, and to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
So I'm Pam Jones, and I just want to let you know what the program is. So the Teacher Residency Program is an alternate route to elementary certification, and it embraces a different approach for towns to retain and attract teachers of color. The program provides hands-on training for adults with a college degree in something other than elementary teaching or teaching in general. And it's a pathway for a lifelong career in education. The residents participate in 18 months of classes. So they're taking courses, and then they do not 12 months, they do a school year with the mentors. So they started with us in September, and they're with us until June, which is pretty unique. While they're with us, they're receiving pay and benefits from the town. The residents are guaranteed upon successful completion of the program and successful completion of all of the certification requirements, they're guaranteed a teaching position in Wethersfield when they're done.
I'm Emily Woods. I teach 5th grade at Emerson Williams. Why this work matters and why it really goes with our improvement goals is when we look at the racial makeup of teachers and students in Connecticut schools, this data here is from 2019 and 2020. You can see on the left the makeup of our student population, and then on the right the makeup of our educators. And when CREC first started putting this program together in 2017, they saw that 42% of Connecticut students were children of color, where only 8% of the educators were teachers of color. So there was a big discrepancy there. And research shows that the impact of teachers of color in our classrooms includes reduced dropout rates, improved college admissions, and achievement gains for all students. The graduates of this teacher residency program give students windows and mirrors into their lived experiences and possibilities for their futures. So students see schools as a place that's welcoming to them, a place that's inviting, a place where they want to be. They see potential for themselves as educational leaders when they have teachers of color. And we would hope that that students then return to our community as educational leaders themselves one day. So right now, the program in our class, as Pam mentioned, the residents are doing coursework, and they have been with us since the very first day of school. So it's really unique and different from a student teaching experience, where our student teachers would usually start in either September and go to December, or January and go to June. So the residents really have the benefit of seeing an entire school year. They also have the benefit of seeing Wethersfield Public School curriculum. So, you know, sometimes a student teacher, you might I student taught in East Hartford, and then when I came to Wethersfield, it was a brand-new curriculum to learn. So our residents are actually learning the curriculum as we go through the program. They're learning our assessments, they're learning what our conferences are like with parents, they're really getting the full experience of what it's like to be a Wethersfield public school teacher. The second half of the year is more like a student teaching experience. The first half of the year, they spent a lot of time observing, watching, getting to know the students, building rapport with students and faculty members in the school. The second half, they're stepping more into the role of educator. So they're planning more lessons. They're working on their EdTPA portfolio, which is a requirement for certification in the state. They actually have a pretty intense portfolio that they submit, 5 literacy lessons and 5 math lessons that they teach and then reflect upon. They have to record sessions of it, and they submit all of that to the state as part of a requirement for certification. So they're really assuming more of the teacher role at this point in time. The program expects that the residents will be teaching 85 to 100% of the classroom lessons at this point in time. They're running our morning meetings and teaching our social emotional curriculum in the classrooms. They're expected to be assessing student work, reviewing student data on some of the summative and formative assessments that we're giving. They're working to help us prepare the report cards that are going home soon. They're sitting with us to prepare documents for parent-teacher conferences. And they are also still working on coursework. They just finished a math course, and now they're starting a science course this week. So they're continuing coursework outside of our classroom as well. And that EdTPA portfolio, they have to have that submitted by May. So they do have a lot of pieces that they're working on right now with us. So we're wondering any questions that you might have about this program, because it is brand new to us this year in Wethersfield.
Thank you. Ms. Granado.
Hello, Emily. Hi. Listen, I do have a question. Who evaluates these teachers, student teachers? Because it's a CREC program. Wethersfield is part of CREC, but they're working in the Wethersfield schools. So could you explain to me how we get this all to work?
Sure. So the residents are each assigned a coach. So they have a coach from CREC that comes in. So they're evaluated by their coach once monthly, and then they're also evaluated by their mentors. So Pam and I are also required to complete what they call a summative evaluation, which is a longer evaluation where we look at domains from the Connecticut competencies of educators when we're scoring them. And then we also are required to complete 2 formative assessments, which are shorter assessments, looking at that same rubric, but fewer categories. So they're receiving at least 4 evaluations a month. And then Ms. Takor has also been into each of our classrooms twice and done observations on them and provided feedback as she would with the regular, the regular certified educators.
Great, thank you.
Any other board members with questions? Yes, Amanda.
How has this affected you and the students with having this teacher there? And does it, I mean, obviously it's a positive, but how is it a positive with the children versus what you had before this started with the children, what you see now?
Well, it's definitely impacted them in that they have 2 teachers in the classroom. So that right there is a plus. It gives us, right now, it gives me an opportunity to step back a little while she's doing more, and it gives me an opportunity to work with some of the kids who need more help. So I get to sit and work with them while she's working, and then vice versa, teach her how to do small groups, and she can work with those kids while I'm doing whole groups. So it's a win-win for everybody. So that's really the biggest thing, is that they have 2 teachers in the class. And we were told that they should be looked at as teachers as opposed to helpers or aides. From day one, the parents, students, everyone looked at these residents as teachers.
Mr. Cassio.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Emily. I just have a couple quick questions regarding if a residency teacher is not performing, is it your responsibility to notify their school, or are they already passed all their curriculum or requirements to come into Emerson?
So they have a certain timeline where they have to pass their praxis tests, and they have to pass the Foundations of Reading exam. And we actually meet pretty frequently with the coaches just to kind of, we did a mid-year evaluation on them. And depending on their progress and the goals they have and the support they need, we meet more with the coaches to kind of support if they need a little more structure and goal setting.
So it's open dialogue as far as, making it happen for them.
Yeah.
I'm just going to jump in and add one thing. The other thing to remember is this is not like a typical student teaching experience. So the residents who are part of the program, even when June rolls around, they still have exams that they're going to need to take over the summer. They still have to continue their coursework over the summer. So the district goes into this understanding that this is a very lengthy process for them that does not wrap up on June 21st. So they're not completely done at that point. They still have more work to continue over the summer.
It's a lot of work.
It is. It is.
Yeah, very rigorous.
Can I just ask quickly a little clarification about that timeline? If it's an 18-month program and it's one academic year of residency, so when are the other 6 months effectively happening? Do they start beforehand? They've had a lot of classroom time
Yes.
before they actually come into the school.
Yeah, so they started last summer, and then they joined us in September, and then they'll finish with us in June, and they'll continue their coursework until August.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other board members? Thank you. Great job. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Liz. Thank you.
I was just waiting for the thing to go up. All right, moving on to the approval of minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the February 8th, 2022 regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments, questions, discussions? Seeing none, with a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Public comment. Anyone in the public wishing to make comment, please step to the podium, state your name and your address, and you have 5 minutes. Abby, you want to come speak? No? Okay. Public comment is closed. Communications, Mr. Emmett.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. Good evening again, everyone. A few items for you this evening. You've seen on your agendas a large increase in the number of facilities and maintenance committee meetings. We've been working very diligently on our long-range building planning. I'm very pleased to report that our next regularly scheduled board meeting will be coming before you with an updated enrollment study, presentation on the educational specifications, which we're finishing up now, along with the rest of the due diligence work that we've been doing. Dan Hansen, who is helping to coordinate the educational specifications, most recently met with physical services yesterday. He has now met with each of the groups, and we're working on getting those ed specs together so that we can hone in on budgeting and get moving with this project. The expectation is that we're submitting a grant application to the state by June 30th. One of the other big things that happened last week, we had a visitor over at Hanmer Elementary School. Governor Lamont visited along with, I think, every commissioner in the state of education. It was a full house over in the media center. Two of the people that happened to be there were the acting commissioner of the Department of Administrative Services, Michelle Gilman, as well as Noel Petra. He's the deputy commissioner of the Department of Administrative Services. These are the individuals that will look over our grant application. So I had the opportunity to speak with both of them at Hanmer last week and explain to them what our plan was and that we'd be coming before them. So it was certainly a great opportunity to have that conversation. Governor Lamont was pitching a matching grant program that he is proposing in this upcoming budget with regard to upgrades to HVAC and ventilation. What we were able to do over at Hanmer, as I had mentioned in a recent Friday update, we had a situation with our music room being an interior room that did not have adequate outside ventilation. We had put money aside in the rescue plan funding to upgrade HVAC and ventilation. So we ended up spending approximately $23,000 to bring in outside air into the music room. And we all got to see, after the press conference last Tuesday, we got to see a kindergarten class in action in the music room. So it was certainly a great sight. So we appreciated everybody coming out. Again, I think Hanmer School really did us proud. And talking with the governor as he was leaving, talked about the positive vibe and energy that he felt at Hanmer School as well as in Wethersfield. So certainly a nice visit. A couple of other items for you this evening. I had mentioned last month, unfortunately, the district lost one of our beloved employees over at Highcrest School with the death of Kelly Tetro. I am very pleased and honored this evening to say that the Tetro family was most gracious in stating that in lieu of flowers, any donations be made to the Wethersfield Public Schools to support our libraries across the district. And as of this evening, nearly $14,000 has been donated to the Wethersfield Public Schools to support our libraries in our schools. So to the Tetro family, again, our deepest condolences and our deepest appreciation. A couple of positive notes. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, please do so. They're selling fast. We have the spring production of Cinderella over at the high school this weekend. We have performances taking place on Friday, March 11th at 7:30, Saturday, March 12th at 7:30, and Sunday, March 13th, a matinee at 3 p.m. You can get your tickets online at showtixforyou.com. I went on and bought them today, so very easy to do. Having been over at the high school late last week, I can tell you the students are extraordinarily excited to be back in that auditorium and cannot wait to perform. Cannot wait. Couple of other items. This evening, obviously, you'll see on reports and discussion items, we have another COVID-19 update. I'm hopeful that this is our last formal one that we have. We've seen the numbers heading downward. And again, with regard to the high school, last week, we had our intrepid class officers who have been patiently waiting for the opportunity to have a school dance. So they reached out again last Friday morning through Mr. Maltese. We had our EOC meeting with Charles Brown and town staff on Friday. I proposed the question, could we in fact get a dance in? And Charles's response was, based upon your numbers, based upon where we are with the alert level, go for it. I had to ask him again just to make sure, but it was go for it. So we met with the student officers, the class officers on Friday. They are currently in the process of planning for a dance. I believe it's going to be on the 1st of April. So again, very, very excited to be getting back to normal, and that's our trend certainly moving forward. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that March is Board Appreciation Month, and I must say, the whole month, that is correct. It's Board Appreciation Month. And, I seldom have seen a group of more dedicated volunteers. And you think about what you've done throughout the course of this COVID pandemic and all of the challenges that we have faced. Mm-hmm. And you do it with dignity, you do it with style, you do it with professionalism. From our veterans that have been on for virtually ever, to our newest board members who just came aboard in November. I just want to say thank you so much for everything that you do for the students and the staff of this great district. And with that, that's communications.
Thank you, Mr. Emmett. Moving on to recommended action items. Do we have a recommended motion to approve the policy updates?
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Mr. Emmett, discussion?
Yep. These policies, as stated during the first read, these are policies through Shipman and Goodwin, our legal counsel. These are updates that have legal components to them. I do want to make sure I let the Policy and Planning Committee know we've got another batch of them forthcoming, so do be prepared for a meeting coming up very shortly.
Excellent. Any questions? Seeing none with a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Ms. Drew, I believe you have a motion for us?
I move to approve the 2022-2023 budget.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Mr. Emmett?
Okay, have a presentation.
Presentation. Yeah.
I know.
200 hours passed.
We got to work on that filter check.
Was it saying on that side too?
All right, just went off.
You saying both sides?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's on both sides. All right, it's now off. Sorry about that. We're working on getting a new one. Good evening, everyone. Certainly, it is my pleasure to be with you this evening to present the superintendent's proposed budget for the fiscal year 2022-2023. As you know, we had gotten together for a budget workshop prior to the presentation, so we were able to go through each budget item and budget section line by line as needed and deal with any particular questions. So this evening, I want to make sure that I present it to the public and obviously give you the opportunity to understand where we head next. So with my budget presentations, we always cut right to the chase. Everybody wants to know what the number is. So our current adopted 2021-2022 budget is $57,452,181. For the proposed 2022-2023 budget, I'm proposing a budget of $60,315,792. This is an increase of $2,863,611 over the current operating budget. This percentage increase is 4.98%. Again, this is probably, in my 10 years as your superintendent, this is the largest increase that I've come forward with. And let's look at what that comprises. It is comprised primarily of salaries and benefits. It comprises 84.07% of our proposed budget for 22-23. And it's increased from 82.7% for the current fiscal year. The other thing I want you to be aware of, too, is that we look at this presentation. I always make sure that we incorporate photos of our students. Our students tell the story. Our staff tell the story. And there's more to this than just a dollar figure, and it really is about the kids. There's that music class that I just talked about. Freshly ventilated music class, bright and airy, with kindergartners learning with Kim Martin, our music teacher at Hanmer. I do want to talk about some of the district needs that we have not included in the budget. Again, the budget increase could have certainly been higher. One of the things that we had looked at within our ELL plan is an ELL supervisor. Again, our current enrollment is increasing. We have definitely added certified ELL teachers over the past several years as the numbers have gone up, but we're certainly looking to add in the future an ELL supervisor. You also know that this year we did add several administrative positions to bring back instructional supervisors in the curriculum area, as well as adding an additional special education supervisor. We've also cut back on the classroom desktop computer upgrade. This is going to be something we're going to have to get back to next year. Our desktop units are a little bit on the aged side, and we're getting to the point where the operating system under which they operate is no longer going to be supported. So we were able to cut back for this year, but it's definitely going to be something that you'll see next year. Again, classroom projector upgrades of $50,000. We did actually earlier this year get word from CREC that they were closing they had opened new schools and they had some equipment. We actually went and were able to grab some projectors this year as well as some smart boards. So we were able to pare back in the area of classroom projector upgrades as well. And again, one of the requests that Silas Deane had was an additional PE teacher for $65,000. At this point in time, that's something that we were unable to budget for. Now, I want to talk about the changes by major object. So you look at that budget number and you're saying, woo, 4.98%, what is it? And it is largely salaries, but mostly it's benefits. So the increase, $2,089,435 is tied up with the benefit increase. We're looking at a projected increase right now of 15% on our health insurance. From a personal services standpoint with salaries, our salary increase of $1,098,243, those are contractual increases for our bargaining units. And then in each of the other areas, we have reduced, and again, in some areas not significantly, but we have looked to reduce to try and bring this budget into a reasonable number. And again, areas of decrease, miscellaneous, property, purchase property services, supplies, professional and technical services, and other purchase services. So let's talk about the budget factors. Where do these numbers come from? Let's talk salaries first. Our salaries are increasing 2.83%. This makes up 38% of our total budget increase. So we're seeing that $1,098,243 increase there. Our salaries comprise 66% of the total operational budget. Our teacher salaries are increasing 2.92% based on contractual obligations, continuation of the STRIVE program, in collaboration with the Connecticut Teacher Residency Program that you heard about this evening. Our paraeducator salaries are increasing a total of 8.3% based on contractual obligations and current staffing, which includes an additional 6 paraeducators due to ABA and STRIVE expansion, as well as individualized student needs in the district. And again, I've said this before, with special education, it always tends to be the wild card. What we've been able to do by building our STRIVE program and our ABA program is we've been able to bring more students back into district. So some of those additional positions we've been able to create by offsetting tuition costs for out-of-district placements. Here's the big one. Our benefits are increasing almost 24%. It is almost 73% of the total budget increase. Our health insurance is assuming a 15% premium increase. I will tell you that historically, we have seen a little bit of wiggle room. In the past, we have seen the number come down a little bit. However, I would caution, recently with the COVID pandemic, and we're now getting back into a lot of elective surgeries, I'm not sure that we're going to see that drop that we typically do. Our defined benefit account is increasing by 8.97%, and this is due to actuarial values for employer pension and other post-employment benefits, that's OPEB. Medicare Plan Part B reimbursement for eligible retirees, that's increasing 10.48%. That's $50,758, and that's based on federally mandated premiums. And then our employer life insurance is increasing 88.37%, and that's based upon adjusted carrier premiums. So this is really the driver for this increase for the upcoming year. In terms of the kind of the why behind the reductions already, purchase professional and technical services decreasing 7%. It's really based upon anticipated costs for instructional program improvement, as well as projected legal services related to HR and SPED. Again, we have just finished with bargaining with our bargaining units. We do not have any bargaining units that we are planning on negotiating with next year, so contracts are currently in place, so we had a little bit of wiggle room there. Purchase property services decreasing just about 5%, and it's related to instructional repairs and maintenance throughout the district. We are decreasing other purchase services 2.4%, and this is anticipated net magnet and special ed tuition costs, which reflect an increase in projected state revenue. In-town transportation is increasing 7.91%. As you recall, we went out and did an RFP for transportation services. So, again, as Matt said during his presentation of that RFP, that number in that contract for transportation is really quite reasonable. And then finally, supplies, we're decreasing supplies by 5.59%. It's based upon anticipated costs related to instructional supplies, administrative supplies, and textbooks. So let's take a look at the historical budget increases and where we've been. So you can see dating back to 13-14, we've tried to be somewhere in the, the high 2s to mid 3s. We've had several years where we've been well below that. And you can see over the past 2 years, in 2021 and in 21-22, the board finished under budget and was able to return money to the town. And last year, as you'll recall, what we ended up doing was we returned money to the town to offset the increase in this year's health insurance. And you can see where we are, our historical budget, and you can see the insurance. And we've seen a pretty steady rise in insurance costs. Wanted to also share with you the district reference group. We are in district reference group D, and I just wanted to show the members of the community the per pupil spending, where we are with Wethersfield versus the other districts in our reference group. And you can see that over the course of the past 8 to 9 years, you've seen our rank within the DIRG. We were 10th back in 2010 in terms of spending per pupil, and we've dropped in the past decade, we've dropped from 10th to 17th. So right now, we are currently, as of 1920, the latest data that's available, $16,755 per student. I want to talk with you a little bit about the ESSER funding. Again, it's not been all doom and gloom. We've gotten 2 infusions of money and funding that have really helped this district be able to accelerate the closing the gap in the learning loss. So the first funding we got for this year that we're currently spending down is the SR2 funding. So we received a total of $1,214,993. And you can see we've invested in a math interventionist at each building. We put out a summer program across all grade levels that actually reached just shy of 1,000 students this past summer. We have that funding again in the rescue plan funding for this year. We didn't think that one and done was worth it. We needed to invest in more than 1 year. We have a 1 elementary and 1 secondary family liaison. You saw them in tonight's WEC presentation. We also engaged in curriculum writing and PD related to SEL and restorative practices. We've contracted with Effective School Solutions for student mental health and staff coaching regarding behavior supports for our students. We've implemented the Rethink Ed curriculum and software for Tier 1 lessons related to social emotional learning. We've purchased personal protective equipment, including items related to our music program. And we did integrate some smart board replacement, which we were able to decrease on our operating budget side. So this funding is going to be spent out this year. What we're looking at over the course of the next 2 years is looking for the American Rescue Plan funding. This is a total of $2,573,370. And this will be spent out over the next 2 years. Again, we're looking to make sure that we maintain those math interventionists at each building. Again, we're talking about additional summer programming years out. We want to continue to maintain our elementary and secondary family liaison. We certainly want to continue the curriculum writing related to SEL and restorative practices. Our staff are working on that right now. We want to continue our contract with Effective School Solutions for student mental health supports and staff coaching. Again, I had mentioned earlier, air quality testing and ventilation repairs and upgrades. We've already tapped into that account for $23,000 to bring music back up into the music room at Hanmer. And again, we're also looking over the next couple of years to be able to continue Chromebook and smartboard replacements. Again, why you've seen that come out of next year's proposed operating budget. So I want to talk a little bit about the budget timeline at this point in time. We had a Board of Education budget workshop on February 5th. I am before you this evening presenting the proposed budget to you, hoping that you'll take action this evening. By charter, the approved Board of Ed budget must be forwarded to the town no later than March 15th. I have confirmed with interim town manager Bonnie Therian that we will be presenting the board-approved budget to town council on the 21st of March. The town-wide budget hearing will be held on Monday, the 18th of April. And then the town council notification of allocation, I believe that actually is going to end up being May 13th, is what I'm understanding, because the 15th is a Sunday. So, and with that, that's our presentation. If you have any questions, please.
Any board members with questions, comments? All right, seeing none. Ms. Drew, can you make?
Yep, I'd like
amendment?
to amend my motion now that we have the numbers. I would like to move that the Weathersfield Board of Education approve the operating budget for the 2022-2023 school year as presented by the administration in the amount of $60,315,792.
Ms. Granado, do you second the amendment?
I second the amendment.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Let's give it a minute to get the thing up for the noise.
We didn't budget for that, Bill.
Is insurance?
Moving on, Mr. Castro, I think you have a motion for us?
I do. I would like to move that the Weathersfield Board of Education approve the district's participation in the CREC Teacher Residency Program for 2022-2023 school year.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, comments?
I just have one question. Do you know how many residents we would have? Do you get that number now, or?
For budgetary reasons, Bobby, we would be looking at 2.
Okay, thank you.
How much is it about, Mr. Kazaka or Mr. Emmett? Can you repeat that? How much are we paying? I mean, I know from my job what the stipends are, but like how much will 2 CREC residencies cost our district?
Oh, approximately 30 each.
30 each?
Yeah.
About 60,000?
Yeah, rounded.
Does that include the fees to CREC?
It does.
Okay, thank you.
And one thing I would mention too, Mr. Carey, I know that from a legislative standpoint, we've had many superintendents that have talked with legislators about supporting additional funding at the state level for this. And the teacher residency program also works very hard to try and find additional grant funding to reduce the cost for us. The cost actually did go down a little bit from what we originally budgeted for this year, so we're hopeful that we get some additional support from the state. This is an important endeavor. It's something that the state certainly has promoted and supports.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to see them fund a little bit more of it for us, quite frankly.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Mr. Emmett, COVID-19 update.
All right, the COVID-19 update. Mr. Barabalt, come on up. All right, so the latest and the greatest as of today, we've had a total of 898 cases, 741 students, and 157 staff members from the beginning of the school year. Today, we reported 0 cases across the district, and amazingly enough, right now, I have 0 students in quarantine. So we are certainly moving in a more favorable direction. You know, I know at the last board meeting, there was talk about the metrics, and, you know, I think that the frustrating piece for me is that the metrics always seem to be changing. So when I sent out the communication that masks would be optional, we were looking at originally the data at the state level, where you were looking at if you were in the red zone, you were in the yellow alert zone. And then Friday evening, a couple weeks ago, we got the sudden update from the CDC where we were switching it up, and we were looking at it from a county perspective and looking at whether or not the community level was low, medium, or high. So looking at that CDC website, we found that Hartford County, in which we reside, is at the low level. And again, I think that the challenge has been here is that there are those people that wanted to maintain the masks. There are clearly those people that wanted no masks. I think what we've been able to do over the past week and a half now is offer up the opportunity for those staff members and students that continue to feel comfortable wearing the masks. They are certainly welcome to do so. We had an administrative team meeting today, and I asked all of the principals and administrators in attendance if they had seen any type of shaming, any type of pressure being put on anybody to A, wear a mask, or B, not wear a mask. No one reported any issues. I will tell you, I've been out to all of the schools since we made the mask mandate an option, and I have seen a lot of happy kids, smiling faces, and I've still seen kids that are wearing masks and are feeling comfortable wearing masks. I don't see anybody that looks out of place. I think, you know, again, from the challenge of moving forward, we are looking to take a measured approach. You heard me talk tonight during communications that Charles has given the okay for the dance. I think our next step is to take a look at field trips. You know, we'll be looking at the potential now with the numbers going down of broadening the ability for teachers to schedule field trips and get kids back out into the community. We'd be looking at that for probably April 1st at this point. We do have the international trips that are still slated. Those are already separate, board approved. So those, I know we've got one coming up over April vacation. Obviously, we're going to continue to monitor the numbers. I did, you know, have an email last night about, you know, Mr. Emmer, why is it that you're sending out the numbers on a daily basis? I certainly have always wanted to keep the community informed as to what's going on. I will say with the numbers dropping as they are, my hope would be that through the end of this week, so we're at that 2-week mark beyond when we made masks optional, we would end up going to a weekly reporting. As you know, also with DPH, any positive cases, the DPH says that we need to continue to report to them, so we will do so. Mr. Barabal is our person that updates the dashboard, so we'll talk about how we'll update that dashboard, whether or not we'll keep it daily or we'll go to weekly. And then, Mr. Barabal, if you could talk a little bit, I know you received another big shipment of test kits, because it's another one of our mitigation strategies. How many do we have?
So we have a total of 122 cases of test kits right now. I picked up an additional 98 last week with the help from the town garage, which they've been fantastic in partnering with us. So we have things in place where we're going to get them out to families. Again, our nurses have been fantastic about anyone that comes in with symptoms or anything like that, they get them to the families. If we recognize anything in a classroom, which we haven't, but they get them out to the classroom and use as a mitigating strategy. Anybody who wants a test kit now for their child or a staff member need just go to their nurse's office and we have them. We're also going to distribute them to them for before fall athletics starts. Each athlete, spring, I'm going far ahead. Spring athletes will get one to take home with them so we can test before they participate and maybe catch something and keep them going so we can get through the spring season. Also, there was talk with our admin team too, is when we have parent-teacher conferences at our elementary levels, we're going to have the availability for parents to come in when they have their conferences to get tests for them and their families, so we can have them available for them too. Testing is not restricted. We have more than enough. We'll get them out. We'll get them to who needs them so we can maintain this. Luckily, we've seen, like Mr. Emmett said, reports of zeros, ones for the last 2 weeks. We're coming on the other side of the 2-week issue. So we'll also review, and Mr. M and I have spoken at length about it, watching as we progress, getting more towards April and getting our cafeterias maybe back, but that's going to be a measured approach because we want to make sure that we maintain these levels. But as he said, speaking to Charles, he's on board with us moving forward. So hopefully by we get back in April vacation, we'll have our schools looking from classrooms to cafeterias, looking normal, looking back where they are, and in a safe manner where everyone's comfortable. So I've been out to schools too constantly, just like Mr. Emmett, and I see some people wearing their masks, some people not, and it's just a normal school day. Nobody pays it one mind either way. So that's a positive. Our community's welcoming, and you have the ability to do what you want to do and not feel ostracized, so it's a good thing.
Excellent. And then with the Emergency Operations Center meetings, we meet on a weekly basis. We will be meeting this Friday. We will be discussing whether or not we're going to continue to meet every week, or we may drop it off to every other week. The DPH calls have dropped to every other week, so typically I'd be reporting on, what happened at the DPH call today. There wasn't one. We anticipate one will be coming next Tuesday. And again, we're going to continue to monitor the numbers. I have to say our nurses have been absolutely stellar in talking with parents and, again, maintaining if your child is sick, keep them home. And they've been really good about that, and parents have been really good about not sending their children into school if they are sick. Again, there are other things that are out. Like today I heard from Elda Marcelinas, who is our nursing supervisor. We had a case of chickenpox. So, and that's unusual. And again, the student had not been in school, so it was not an issue. But again, there are other childhood diseases out there, unfortunately. So, again, we reported that one to Charles just to make sure. But again, our numbers are, they are trending downward. We are seeing the spread. Like, for example, I reported 6 cases yesterday, between yesterday and Saturday. 3 of those 6 cases were within one family after spread from a family member. So we are monitoring. We'll continue to do so. But again, I'm hopeful. I'm encouraged. Charles does not talk about a variant of concern at this point in time, and we're seeing a decrease in the community level, and I think we're on the right track.
Any questions or comments?
I'd like to just make a comment.
Yes, Ms. Granado.
Thank you. I'm just a little confused when you say you have all these tests, which is great. Does a high school athlete get to take a test in school? I mean, and then they
take them home and do it, and then if it becomes positive, they notify the school and they go from there.
Okay. So when you say they're testing, they're taking them home.
They're taking them home
That's
because
okay.
all the guidance that we've been giving and all the guidance from CIAC and everything, we can't mandate they test. We recommend. So that's why we provide them and strongly recommend they do.
Okay.
There's nothing out there that mandates, even returning to school, there's nothing out there that mandates. They're all recommendations where we stand now. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your work. This has been a Herculean job.
It's been interesting, but we got through it, and hopefully we're on the other side of this and we get back to some normalcy. That's what we're all looking for, right?
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Dr. Regan Lefebvre.
Thank you so much. Managing this crisis has been logistically very challenging, and you've all done a fantastic job, and I appreciate that. As an educator, I'm not a big fan of take-home tests because I always worry about cheating. But there's only so much you can do.
Right.
I don't want to, there's so much cause for optimism at this point. The numbers are fantastic. It's really reassuring. Hopefully, we're also coming to the end of cold and flu season. The weather's starting to look up, people can get outside more, so everything is really positive. I do think that the issue of masking looms so large in most families' experience of school that it strikes most people as a policy issue. And I do wish we as a board had weighed in collectively on it, even if we had reached the same exact decision, to just continue with what has been passed down by the legislature. But I think we were given an opportunity to weigh in on a policy level, and I wish we had managed to pull it together to do that. The timing was not really in our favor, just the way it was announced by the legislature and our previously scheduled meeting. So I think that is unfortunate. I also think we should consider, as a policy, thinking about how we can encourage vaccination. chickenpox, another childhood illness that you can now be vaccinated against. And that's the reason we've seen such a dramatic decline in cases. We mandate many different kinds of vaccines for children, and because it's in the interest of public health, and we should think as a board about whether at some point in the future it would be wise to do the same thing with a COVID vaccine. I don't think we're there yet, but it's something we should think about. And I also really think we need to communicate better moving forward to parents. When might we need to reassess and potentially bring back stronger mitigation strategies, i.e. masks? And I think in our minds, we're all thinking, oh, hopefully that won't be until like November, if ever. But what are we going to base that decision on? Is there a number we're looking at? And it's true. I mean, the landscape of public health is changing so rapidly. People are saying, well, we should be looking at wastewater. Well, we should be looking at hospital beds. We should be looking at something else. There are different metrics you can use. But I think a lot of families, I know a lot of families, because they're reaching out to me personally and saying, when are they going to decide if we need to reinstate masks? Is it going to be based on our case numbers? Is it going to be based on clusters? Is it going to be based on something else? It's clearly not based on vaccination rates, because at the 5 to 11 age group, they are way below what public health experts expect in terms of reaching herd immunity. We want to get to 80, 85%. We're still hovering a little under 50, I think, for the young kids. So I don't expect an answer to that right now, but I think we really need to think seriously about this as a board and be able to communicate it in the future in a clear way. Having kids in other systems, I have seen how some school districts have been handling this, and Hartford, I think, did a really good job at having open webinars for parents where they could ask questions. I think people in Wethersfield are looking for a little more information from us, and I hope we can deliver on that moving forward. Hopefully, it's going to be a non-issue, because we're just going to keep all staying healthy. That would be amazing. And you have done a fantastic job, so I don't want to sound like a naysayer who's saying, oh, we haven't done it right. But we just have to be so vigilant. That's the name of the game here. Thank you.
Michael, in your update, didn't you give us the metrics you were using for the CDC?
Yeah, the CDC guidelines right now we're using are whether or not you have community level spread, if it's low, medium, or high. But to that point, you know, the reality here, and let's think about it. Let's look back to what the level red, you know, if we were in the red alert. At one point in time with red alert, I was supposed to be closing down schools. Right. I was supposed to be eliminating extracurricular activities. And these metrics constantly changing, they're a problem. And Jennifer, to your point, I agree wholeheartedly. You know, to sit here tonight and say that I have a clear picture from the CDC or the Connecticut Department of Public Health or the Central Connecticut Health District that if we see positivity rate of 10%, we have to reenact the mask mitigation, or we have to come up with something different. There is no clear number with this, and that's been the challenge. You have some districts, CREC talking about, they extended their mask mandate because their vaccination rate was low. They had a conversation with them today, and they were talking about the fact they're going to end the mask mandate. It's an extraordinary challenge. And I know, Jennifer, to your point about the parents, I heard from parents on both sides of the item. When the governor announced that he was lifting the mandate and making it under local control, I had every anti-mask parent that came out and said, you got to do this. And then when we talked about the fact we were going to make it optional, then every pro-mask parent came out and said, you've got to keep masks. We tried to come up with something in between based upon our numbers. If I was sitting here this evening and we still had, we're still at like 100 cases per 100,000, and I had done it, I thought it would have been really irresponsible. And, talking with Charles Brown on Friday, he felt that our vaccination rate for 5 to 11 compared to the other 4 towns in the district was pretty good. And again, even with the herd immunity, I have to say, the number of students and staff members that I had catch COVID on the backside of vacation that were fully vaccinated or boosted, was substantial. That Omicron variant was ferocious. And again, I think, from my perspective, talking with Charles, I'm not hearing that there's a variant of concern at this point in time when we're seeing that community level low at this point in time. So But Jennifer, you bring up a very good point. And it's, as I said, Mike and I, as well as all of our nursing staff, will continue to monitor on a daily basis. And I know, as I said, I've had some parents say, don't communicate at all anymore. It's over. Let it go. Move on. I don't think we're at that point where we can do that yet. I just don't.
Any other comments, questions? All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Moving on to meetings held, the budget workshop was not held. CREC Council, 2/16/22. Ms. Granado.
Okay, well, the CREC Council met on Wednesday, February 16th. The council is the Capital Region Education Council, of which Wethersfield is a member, along with 35 other surrounding towns, and the council is responsible for our regional magnet schools and Project Choice. They've also organized and worked the Hartford Head Start. So a presentation to the council was on the CREC Foundation, which was established in 2005. And the foundation's development office puts much emphasis on getting grants, sustainability, providing scholarships for students who have overcome adversity. They provide innovation grants and have a fall golf tournament. The foundation's future focus will be on recruiting new board members. The Finance Committee reviewed the Chef O'Neill agreement with the council and spoke on the impact of the rise in health costs. The legislative report discussed meeting with legislators virtually to discuss teacher residency and the important education bills before the legislature. CREC's Executive Director, Greg Florio, highlighted the 10-year Chef O'Neill agreement. He is concerned that if there is a failure by the state to increase the funding for magnet schools, this could result in significant increases in tuition for sending districts. And Council Chair Lydia Tadone commented on attending the NSDA conference in Washington, D.C. for an equity symposium and a conference advocating public education. And finally, the finance report spoke of the budget, the energy upgrades being retrofitted in schools, and again, health care costs. All info about CREC and the council's meetings can be found on their website. Thank you.
Thank you. Meetings held, I'm off my page, give me a second. Here we go. Facilities and maintenance on 2/16/2022 and on 3/3/2022. Mr. Cassio.
Thank you, Chuck. Yes, on the meeting on the 16th, a milestone timeline was updated to provide for meeting necessary for the Board of Education and Town Council to approve minutes in order to meet the submission deadline for a grant application by June 30th. Space requirements, educational specs for the new schools are being provided by Dan Hansen, and the difference between a grant application and a referendum were also discussed at that meeting. There was also discussion made in going out to bid on a fence project for Catone Field. That was on the 16th of February. The meeting held on March 3rd. Before I go on, any other people that attended that meeting on the 16th, do you have any other comments you want to add to that? Okay. So on the March 3rd meeting, that was a little bit of a more lengthy meeting. And basically, we got down into the nitty-gritty of information. The timeline was provided, and we are right on time to where we are. As the superintendent mentioned at the opening of the meeting, our enrollment study has been completed and will be brought. The ed specs are continually worked on as we go on. The IT team and security directors are involved with this as well. We also discussed the state standard calculator for reimbursement. That is still out there as far as what's happening. We also discussed the design and the space and looking to the future and planning for development, that when we think there's a good spot to leave an open area, we're not going to put a heating system out that door. So what we're going to look at is for future project if we need to add on for a preschool program as we move forward into the next century. The other issues that we discussed were the authority as far as where we're going to be, and the board will be involved with this, the building committee, the facilities committee, as well as the board. We are also looking at the referendum and the fact that we discussed that in length, and we are going to be meeting again and finalize that discussion on Tuesday, March 15th. There was a lot of open discussion on it. Monday.
Yeah, they did change it.
Tuesday, March 15th. We're Monday now, March 14th?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that.
That's okay, they just changed it.
We also discussed the fact that the superintendent has been meeting with the parent groups and getting everyone motivated and excited about forming a committee, parents, to handle this at Highcrest, Hamner, Webb, Charles Wright, as well as Emerson. We're putting all 5 schools into it. And so keep in mind, this isn't going to happen tomorrow. This is a 10-year plan. And, we're looking at a referendum coming before us in November. But more importantly is the open communication that the superintendent is having with our current town manager. I think it's imperative that that continue, as well as her dialogue with the town council as to where we are going with and what steps we're taking right along. So I know the superintendent has or will be talking to the bond council to establish a date for a referendum and to see what the future is. We also discussed the area of when we do get into design and alternative construction, the fact that we learned from the mistakes that we handled at the high school, and we do not want that to continue. So you learn from bad habits and you move forward with the good ones. So it's in with the good, out with the bad. So we're all taking a deep sigh of breath and relief on this, and it's going to be a long haul for the committee and for the board. So we're onslaught of meetings and full speed ahead. We've had a lot of good enthusiasm on the group, as well as good questions, and I think we do have a lot of support from the families in the community of Wethersfield. That's my report.
Thank you. Meetings held, the Memorial Day Parade Committee meeting, Mr. Cassio.
Yep. That was another meeting that was held on February 9th. It is going to be taking place on Saturday, May 28th, 2022. It will be a full parade. It will not be, unless it rains, but we're moving forward in that direction. We will be meeting again tomorrow to go over the theme, the parade marshals, as well as any other individuals that would like to participate in the parade. You can go on the town hall website and under Parks and Rec and look and fill out an application if you want to participate in the parade in that regards. The other neat thing is that we've already started in our schools. As every year, we put a Memorial Day essay together by the 8th graders at the Silas Deane Middle School. And basically, what does Memorial Day mean to you? And you'd be totally surprised what comes out of these essays in these 8th grade students. It's phenomenal. I don't know if you were there last year or the year before. You just sit there in awe and listen to them speak. It was so intense and so rewarding to see that happen. The other neat thing that we're going to be doing back this year is that we are asking the elementary school students to get involved. And basically what that does is it allows them to do a poster from their building. And if you recall, we had them all in the council chambers and down the hall into the library. And so it's a real excitement, a collaboration with the town, the students, getting them aware of veterans and what it really happens. And so So I think that's where we are with the parade, and it's great to be there, and we're moving full speed ahead. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Gasso. Meetings scheduled, we have the Facilities and Maintenance on 3/14/22 at 6 PM, Students, Programs, and Services on 3/15/2022 at 6 PM, CREC Council 3/16/22 at 11:30 in the morning, Finance and Operations at 3/22/22 at 6 PM. There's no unfinished business, public comment. Anyone in the public wishing to make comment, please come to the podium, state your name and address. You have 5 minutes.
She's not paying attention.
No, she has her headphones on. Seeing none, public comment is closed. Board comment, any board members wishing to make comment, now is your time. Yes, Dr. Regan Lefebvre.
Briefly, as I always am. I just wanted to say a word. One of the great strengths of Wethersfield, as we've discussed tonight, are the many different people who maintain a different language, hail from another culture. This enriches our town. And I want to say a personal note of support to our Ukrainian population, and also people from other post-Soviet states for whom the war in Ukraine is particularly traumatizing and upsetting. I wish them, my prayers and my thoughts, but also actions. And I'm particularly pleased to see that at Hanmer School, at least, there is a fundraiser on Tuesday, March 15th, wear blue and yellow to show your support for Ukraine and consider donating $1 to the Ukrainian National Home in Hartford. Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, my God. Ms. Drew, I'll get it out.
I just wanted to say a kudos to a third grader over at Charles Wright. I think it went under the radar. So earlier this year, she participated in an essay contest with Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy, and over 2,500 submissions. It was through the entire state, 2,500 submissions, and only 15 were chosen. And her essay was chosen. She had a presentation with the senator last month, and in fact, he was so proud of her essay, he actually spoke about it during his speech. So I just think it's an achievement, and I wanted to publicly congratulate her.
Wonderful. Say her name.
Oh, I didn't say her name? Layla Lopez. She's third grader.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Ms. Granado.
Okay, I'd like to comment on some meetings that are organizations that work closely with the Wethersfield Public Schools, and one is Wethersfield Hunger Action Team. We met in a Zoom meeting on Friday, February 11th. The group is now working independently from Food Share. Food Share will now be supporting fewer action teams, and most of those teams will be in the big cities. This is the most recent decision by Food Share. But the problem of food insecurity remains a problem in our town, so HAT is very important in addressing this problem and working to help our townspeople. So the decision was made to continue the work of the Wethersfield Hunger Action. Discussions continued on how we would move forward and with other groups that we could partner with. Suggestions were working with the high school HAT group, perhaps a church group, or looking for money to pay a HAT coordinator, and possibly working with the organization just as it is. And this is a very motivated group, and I'm sure we will continue. As we organize Hunger Action, we will continue to work on the dazzling dozen food drives and to put out publicity on other projects that HAT is working on. Our next meeting will be April 28th. And the Wethersfield Education Foundation met on Wednesday, February 23rd in a Zoom meeting. The foundation is providing grants to educators in the Wethersfield Public Schools, and this mission is to provide support for educational projects and initiatives that directly benefit students and enhance the excellence of the Wethersfield community. The monies are for the 22-23 school year, and the grant opportunities are for classroom innovation, school-wide initiatives, and district-wide initiatives. Applications can be submitted directly to the Wethersfield Education Foundation by administrators, specialists, or classroom teachers, and I hope all take advantage of this opportunity. And a letter recently went out to all with the details to apply for these monies. And I want to, before I sound and say thank you, I want to congratulate everyone here and in our town on Happy International Women's Day to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Granado. Mr. Roberts.
I just want to make sure that everyone or senior citizens have noticed that they are welcome to attend Weathersfield High School's Cinderella, their dress rehearsal on this Thursday at 6:30 for free. They just need to be sure to call the senior center by 2 p.m. tomorrow to let Amy Miller know that they are interested in attending. It's a really special opportunity, and I'm thankful that the Weathersfield drama would do that for the seniors.
Excellent, thank you. Anyone else? Yes? Riley. Oh, my God.
Thank you, Chuck. I attended the February 28th Career Advisory Board meeting. The main focus is the career fair on April 28th, 2022, in the morning at Weathersfield High School. Mark Danaher is hoping to have 50 to 60 businesses for that career fair. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board members? All right, I want to congratulate our own Lena Usella, who's not here tonight, but she came in first place in DECA's 2022 Travel and Tourism Professional Sales category. I found that on Facebook. Also want to congratulate girls basketball. They made the state tournament. I believe they lost in the second round. Congratulate girls hockey. They're co-op, and they're with like 6 other towns. They made it to the state semifinals and lost last Saturday. And congratulations to the boys hockey team, lost in the finals of their conference tournament, and they won last night in a very exciting 7-4 victory over North Branford, and play in the quarterfinals on Friday night, to be determined. So lots of sports action still going on. And don't forget to go out and see Cinderella this weekend at the high school. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion